Welcome to the Ultimate Sports Podcast. Today is Wednesday, October 30th, 2019. Today I'm going to recap yesterday's World Series Game 6 and look ahead to tonight's Game 7 and pick the winner. NBA and NHL, bowl projections, NFL power rankings, and my best bet of the day. Okay, we're going to start in baseball, where the Washington Nationals force a Game 7 with a 7-2 victory over the Houston Astros. Well done by the Nats. Steven Strasburg gets the win. Justin Verlander the loss. Top of the first, RBI single, Anthony Rendon won the Nats. Bottom of the first, sacrifice fly, Alex Altuve 1-1. Home run, Alex Bregman 2-1. Top of the fifth, home run, Adam Eaton 2-2. Then Juan Soto goes deep to make it 3-2. Top of the seventh, two-run shot, Anthony Rendon, and that was after a terrible call by the umpires in which they ruled Trey Turner to be running out of the baseline. They called him out, and he clearly wasn't running in the baseline, and he really didn't have anywhere to go. So he really should have been safe, and that's something they really don't overturn a review, and then they end up reviewing it because it was a World Series game, and then they ultimately don't overturn the call, and then Rendon hits that home run, and talk about karma being a bitch. There you go, and the ball don't lie. So 5-2 Nats, and then top of the ninth, two-run double, Anthony Rendon makes it a 7-2 final. Steven Strasburg, 8 1/3 innings, 5 hits, 2 runs, 2 walks, 7 strikeouts. Sean Doolittle, 2/3 of an inning and 1 hit. Houston, Justin Verlander, 5 innings, 5 hits, 3 runs, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts. Brad Peacock, an inning and a third, 1 hit, 1 earned run, and 2 strikeouts. Will Harris, 2/3 of an inning, a hit, and an earned run. Ryan Presley, an inning and 2 strikeouts. Chris Stefanski, an inning, 2 hits, 2 runs, no walks, and a strikeout. So the Nationals have their bullpen loaded and ready to go. A lot of Houston's guys are starting to be overused a little bit. Even Will Harris started to look vulnerable in the series. He's had a good postseason, but he really is starting to look a little vulnerable. Chris Stefanski, not good. Ryan Presley's obviously hurt, so he's pitching with an injury. So their bullpen's a little taxed because the Nationals hitters keep on working their starters and their inabilities now to go deep in the games other than Garrett Cole in Game 5. So tonight's game you have Zach Greinke going for Houston and Max Scherzer going for Washington. Obviously, Scherzer was scratched from Game 5 due to elbow soreness. He's good to go for tonight, so that's good news for the Nats in a do-or-die game. Season on the line, and same we said about Houston. Obviously, it's a Game 7. Nothing better than a World Series Game 7 in sports. Joe Buck on the call with John Smoltz, Ken Rosenthal, and Tom Verducci. The last baseball game of 2019. So it's kind of a sad day for baseball fans because of the idea that the Nationals bullpen is a little rested. Granted, it was not very good in that homestand of the World Series. Meanwhile, the Astros have the possibility of having Garrett Cole come out of the bullpen tonight. I would not rule that out. I don't think you'll see Justin Verlander out of the bullpen because he was used yesterday. But the reason why I predict that Garrett Cole come out of the bullpen tonight is because I could see where Greinke struggles through maybe 3 2/3 innings, high pitch count. And Garrett Cole, obviously, 2 days rest. I think he should be available. Madison Bumgarner pitched on 2 days rest after a Game 5 complete shutout, and it went 5 scoreless innings in Game 7 in 2014 that earned the save. So I would not rule out Garrett Cole out of the bullpen tonight for Houston. So they can have them. They have Ozuna, who we've barely seen in the series. You also have Urquidy that I think could go a couple innings. He's pitched very well in the series. So they have some options if Greinke struggles. But that said, I think Max Scherzer will be okay. And I think that you'll see Patrick Corbin out of the bullpen tonight. I think that you could potentially see Anibal Sanchez if Scherzer struggles, because obviously of that injury, I wouldn't be surprised if he's not the same. And then you have Hudson and you have Doolittle. Doolittle seems to be pitching better. Hudson had a bad game 5, giving up a couple big runs in that game to kind of seal for Houston in that one. But just a gut feeling, even though I took the Astros to win the series in 6 games, I think the Nationals are winning it tonight. I trust Max Scherzer injured more than I trust Garrett Cole. Although the Astros have more intriguing options coming out of the bullpen with the likes of Jose Urquidy and potentially Garrett Cole. And although they're regular relievers like the Will Harrises of the world and the Ryan Presleys of the world, are really being overused at this point in the playoffs. So, give me the Washington Nationals to win their first World Series championship in franchise history. I think this is a huge deal this decade in sports because they lose Bryce Harper. And then what are the chances that they go and win the World Series next year? You wouldn't think it would be that high, but here we are. So there's that factors into it. So you'll be hearing a lot of Ewing theory, Bryce Harper's. So tonight really determines the truth of whether it works or not, although I think we know the answer regardless, win or lose, that they're better without Bryce Harper. So maybe it becomes the Harper theory, although, like I said, it should be the Wentz theory, but it's the Ewing theory because that's something Bill Simmons, obviously, of The Ringer made up, and it's Ewing because the Knicks made the 1999 NBA Finals without Patrick Ewing, so he came up with the Ewing theory because the Knicks were playing better without Patrick Ewing, which was really crazy. Maybe if he's healthy in that Spurs series, they win the championship. So I don't like the name, the Ewing theory, only because they lost that series to the Spurs, the Knicks. But that's what I call it because I'm just so used to saying the Ewing theory. So yeah, the Ewing theory with Bryce Harper's real, regardless of the result. But it really is going to confirm it if they win tonight. So give me the Nationals tonight to win their first World Series title in franchise history. And for MVP, I'm going to go with Steven Strasburg. I really am. 2 games, and he pitched so well. Settled down after slow starts. Even though his ERA in the World Series is like 2.51, I could see a world where he wins the World Series MVP. And if Houston wins, I think it could very well be Garrett Cole. Because I think that there's a chance he's the hero coming out of the bullpen tonight. So, if I'm somebody, I'd place a little wager on Garrett Cole or Steven Strasburg to be your World Series MVP. Although, Springer can't be ruled out, Correa can't be ruled out, Bregman can't be ruled out, Rendon can't be ruled out. There's a lot of guys that can't be ruled out. But right now, I'm going to say if Houston wins, it's Garrett Cole because I think he'll come out of the bullpen tonight and pitch great. And he obviously pitched a great Game 5. And on the other side, Steven Strasburg, because of last night and because of his fine start in game number 2. Did he go game 2? No, yeah, he went game 2. Because Scherzer went game 1 against Cole, and then it was the same matchup in game 6 than it was in game 2. So, Steven Strasburg and Garrett Cole would be my picks for MVP if their respective teams win. Okay, let's move on to the NBA. There was only 3 games on last night, and there's a lot more on tonight. So without further ado, here we go. The Heat defeat the Hawks 112-97 in Jimmy Butler's first game back. The Heat are on the season 3-1, and Atlanta's 2-2. Unfortunate news for the Hawks in this game is that Trae Young sprained his ankle, and it looks like that he's going to be back sooner rather than later. He's considered day-to-day, so that's good news. So maybe if Young's healthy, maybe Atlanta keeps this close. I don't know if they win outright, but this game is certainly a lot closer than the 112-97 final. Tyler Harrow actually led Miami in scoring with 29 points off the bench, 3 3-pointers. Goran Dragic had 21 off the bench. Butler in his first game back, 21 points, his first game as a Miami Heat. And then Bam Adebayo and then Chris Nunn each had 17. By the way, Chris Nunn has been the most surprising player in the league so far. Atlanta, Young before the injury, only had 5 points. John Collins carried Atlanta for most of that game, 30.7 boards, 4 assists, 5 3-pointers. Jabari Parker off the bench had 12, and the rest of the team just really didn't step up in Young's absence. Mavericks over the Nuggets, 109-106, a good win for Dallas. They are 3-1, and so is Denver. Maxi Kleber actually led them in scoring with 14 points. Luka Doncic had 12. Dorian Finney-Smith had 12. Kristaps Porzingis and Seth Curry each had 10. Off the bench, Justin Jackson had 10. Jalen Brunson had 11. DeLon Wright had 12. And Tim Hardaway Jr. had 14 with 4 3-pointers. So their bench was the difference in this game. Meanwhile, for Denver, Paul Millsap, 23. Nikola Jokic had 10, 10, 10. How often do you see that? Jamal Murray had 16 with 6 boards. Will Barton had 19 with 11 boards. Gary Harris had 16. And their bench didn't even do anything. Lakers over the Grizzlies, 120-91. A really good win for the Lakers. Memphis was competitive 2.5 quarters of this game, but Anthony Davis and LeBron James pulled away late. Lakers are 3-1. Memphis is 1-3. Anthony Davis, 40 points, 20 boards. A monster game by him. I think he established himself early on as the MVP favorite through the first 8 days of the season. LeBron James had 23 with 8 assists. JaVale McGee, 10 points, 9 boards. Avery Bradley had 12. Off the bench, Kentavious Caldwell Pope at 13. Meanwhile, for Memphis, John Moran had 16. Jonas Valanciunas had 14 with 11 boards. Jaren Jackson Jr. got injured in this game. He only had 7 points. And Brandon Clark off the bench had 10. Grayson Allen off the bench had 13. Tonight's slate, a much bigger slate. 7 o'clock, you have the Knicks at the Magic. The Timberwolves at the 76ers. The Bulls at the Cavs, 7:30. Pistons Raptors on ESPN. The Bucks at the Celtics. This is going to be a fun game. If I had to guess who's on the call this game, I would say it's Mike Breen and Jeff Van Gundy because these are 2 Eastern Conference contenders. The teams that I think will be in the top 3 in the Eastern Conference when it's all said and done. Although the Raptors have something to say about that with the emergence of Pascal Siakam making another jump. I love the Celtics here getting the points at home. They've been very good this year. They're 2-1. Their one loss was that opener against Philly, but that was the Philly opener, and they just kind of tailed off late in that game. And Kemba Walker's been a little better than he was in that first game. I think he has a big game. Jason Tatum has a big game. Jaylen Brown has a good game. And I think that the Celtic role players outplayed the Bucks role players, and they get an important home win on national television. So give me the Boston Celtics tonight to win outright at home against the Bucks. Pacers at the Nets, 8 o'clock. Trailblazers at the Thunder. Rockets at the Wizards. Clippers at the Jazz, 10 o'clock ESPN. No Kawhi Leonard in this game. But on the call this game, I'm going to say it's Dave Pasch and either Doris or Mark Jackson, probably Doris Burke. Should be a fun game, even though that Kawhi's not playing. I think the Clippers will be in it for a while. But ultimately, the Jazz will pull away. I think this is a double-digit win for Utah without Leonard there. And Leonard's obviously going to play tomorrow for the Clips. I believe they're on national TV again tomorrow. The Clips are going to be on national TV all the time. So are the Lakers. And it's a treat because both those teams are really good. So give me the Jazz tonight. I think they win big, led by Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert. Hornets, Kings, and then 10:30 Suns at Golden State. So a very nice slate tonight in the NBA. The NHL, there were some interesting results there last night. Bruins over the Sharks 5-1, a good win for Boston. 9-1-2. San Jose's 4-8-1. David Krejci was number 1 star with the golden assist. Number 2 started the game with the golden assist. Chris Wagner, number 3 with the goal. Charlie Coyle. Capitals over the Maple Leafs 4-3 in overtime. A great win for Washington on the road. 9-2-3 on the year. Toronto 6-5-3. Number 1 started the game with 2 goals and 2 assists. Alex Ovechkin. Number 2 started the game with 2 goals and an assist. Austin Matthews. Number 3 started the game with 2 goals. John Carlson. Penguins over the Flyers 7-1. A really darn good, impressive win for Pittsburgh, who's playing some good hockey. Number 1 started the game with the goal and 2 assists. Sidney Crosby. Number 2 started the game with the goal and 2 assists. Dominic Simone. Number 3 started the game with the goal and 2 assists. Dominic Kahn. Hurricanes over the Flames 2-1. A good win for Carolina. 8-3-1 on the year. Calgary 6-6-2. Number 1 started the game with 2 goals. Andrei Shevchenko. Number 2 started the game with 28 saves on 29 shots. Peter Mrazek. Number 3 started the game. Didn't have a point, but just played a good game. Jacob Slavin. Rangers over the Lightning 4-1. A great win for the New York Rangers. Good bounce back win after that bad loss against the Bruins. They're 4-5-1. Tampa's 5-4-2. Number 1 started the game with a goal. Philip Hedl. Number 2 started the game with 29 saves on 30 shots. Alexander Georgiev. Number 3 started the game with a goal. His first career goal. Adam Fox. Red Wings over the Oilers 3-1. A nice win for Detroit as a home underdog. 4-8-1. Edmonton 8-4-1. Number 1 started the game with a goal and assist. Dylan Larkin. Number 2 started the game with 31 saves on 32 shots. Jordan Howard and the number 3 started the game with 25 saves on 27 shots. Mikko Koskinen. Because that last goal by the Red Wings was an empty netter. Predators over the Blackhawks 3-0. A good win for Nashville. They're 8-3-1. Chicago's 3-6-2. Number 1 started the game with 3 goals. Nick Bonino. Number 2 started the game with 3 assists. Rocco Grimaldi. Number 3 started the game with 20 saves on 20 shots. Pekka Rinne. Stars over the Wild 6-3. This was a great win for Dallas. They're down 3-0. He scored 6 goals in a 21-minute span. 5-8-1 on the year. Minnesota's 4-8. Number 1 started the game with a hat trick and an assist. Alexander Radulov. Number 2 started the game with 2 assists. Miro Heiskanen. Number 3 started the game with a goal and assist. Eric Stahl. Ducks over the Jets 7-4. A good win for the Ducks. They're 8-6. Winnipeg 6-7. Number 1 started the game with 3 assists. Josh Mahura. Number 2 started the game with 2 assists. Jacob Silverberg. Number 3 started the game with a goal. Adam Henrique. 6-game slate tonight. 7 o'clock you have the Lightning at the Devils. We'll see if Tampa Bay bounces back. 7:30 Oilers Blue Jackets. Oilers are a dog. That's bizarre. Is McDavid hurt or something? 8 o'clock NBCSN Wild Blues. On the call this game, John Forslund, Brian Boucher, and Mike Milbury. So not your usual Wednesday night group. That's because Doc Emmerich called a game over the weekend. The Stanley Cup rematch was on Saturday night, so they assigned Doc Emmerich to that game instead. So he gets this one off. So the Hurricanes announcer fills in here. This should be an easy win for the Blues. The Wild are on the second of a back-to-back, and the Blues are just a better team, even though they don't have Vladimir Tarasenko for perhaps the whole season. But I still think they'll get it done. They're a good team, and they're deep. So give me the Blues at home to defeat the Wild by a score of like 5-2. 10 o'clock, the Panthers at the Avalanche. Colorado's kind of been up and down, but mostly up. Florida's really been up and down. I don't get why Colorado's only minus 130. Canadians, Coyotes, I think the Habs have a good chance to win this game outright as an underdog tonight. And then 10:30, the Canucks at the Kings. Kings are obviously one of the worst teams in the league. Canucks off to a fine start at 7-3-1. Now I'm going to do my power rankings for week number 10 of the NFL season. We're going to go from 32-1 as I do each and every week. Number 32 is the Miami Dolphins. This probably won't change until they win a game before the Bengals or they're playing better and the Bengals are not, but they're obviously tanking, and that's the only reason why they're number 32 and the fact that they're winless. Next up for them is the Jets. 31 is the Bengals. They benched Andy Dalton yesterday. Ryan Finley is going to make his debut next week against the Ravens since they're on a bye. 30 is the Washington Redskins. They're a team that's not very good. They go to Buffalo this week to play the Bills. 29 is the Jets. This team has serious issues if they don't win at Miami on Sunday. And there's a lot of pressure on Sam Darnold to deliver here. 28 is the Atlanta Falcons. They've been probably the most underachieving team in the league this year. Their coach is about to be fired. 27 is the Tampa Bay Bucks. Jameis Winston is somebody that's just never changed. Turnover machine. Shows flashes every once in the blue moon. Granted, he has good receivers and a good coach. 26, the New York Giants. I believe they lost 4 in a row after being 2-2. I don't know when their next win's going to be. Could very well be Sunday or Monday night against the Cowboys. Wouldn't rule that out. Daniel Jones has been a top 15 quarterback this year, according to Pro Football Focus. And he's really shown some improvements at times throughout the season, especially this past week against Detroit. 25 is the Denver Broncos. There's a lot of chatter about Chris Harris being on the block. He was not traded. They played the Browns this week. 24 is the Arizona Cardinals. They're a team that has been better than many people thought. They play tomorrow night against the Niners. Number 23 is the Cleveland Browns. They've been, I think, the biggest disappointment in the league. This was the favorite to win the AFC North before the season. Baker Mayfield called out the media for criticizing him, and he's just a flat-out immature little baby. And that's what happens when Odell comes to town and you're overhyped and expectations get to you, and he just isn't as good as we thought. That's the truth. And obviously their offensive line stinks. Some of their defensive players have not panned out to what we thought they were going to be either. So that team is just facing a lot of pressure. And then they play the Broncos without Joe Flacco this week. 22 is the Chargers. They beat the Bears courtesy of a missed kick by Andy Pinheiro. Next for them is the Packers at home. 21 is the Pittsburgh Steelers. Beat the Dolphins on Monday Night Football after being down 14-0 early in that game. They host the Colts next. 20 is the Titans. They just beat the Bucks courtesy of a bad call. In my opinion, that kind of swung that game. Or a bad no call, whatever you want to call it. I just don't think this team is good whatsoever. Next up for them is at Carolina. Number 19 is the Oakland Raiders. They're interesting. They have a chance to get back to 500 at home against the Lions this week. 18 is the Jaguars. I'm not a super fan of Gardner Minshew. I just think this guy's a little fraudulent. They play the Texans in London this week. 17 is the Lions. Good win. Much needed win for them over the Giants. I believe they're on a bye this week, if I'm not mistaken. If not, who do they play? Oh, they're at the Raiders. My bad. 16 is the Bears. Terrible loss against the Chargers courtesy of that missed kick. They play at Philly this week. 15 is the Bills. To me, they're the most fraud 5-2 team I've seen in a while. I don't even know if this team even makes the playoffs. If they do, I'm not even picking them to win their round one game. Next up for them, they host the Redskins. 14 is the Philadelphia Eagles. They are a very interesting team. They just beat the Bills. Next up for them, they host the Bears. 13 is the Carolina Panthers. Just a terrible loss last week against the 49ers. Kyle Allen looked like he was a fluke in that game. Good spot to bounce back this upcoming week against the Titans. Number 12 is the Dallas Cowboys. That was a good ass kicking over the Philadelphia Eagles. I think a letdown spot could be in play for them on Monday night against the Giants. 11's the Colts. Barely beat Denver. Next up for them at Pittsburgh. 10 is the Chiefs. They're the slow because of no Mahomes, obviously. I think their defense is very poor, as we saw in the Sunday night game. Next up for them is home Minnesota, in a game I think they can win. 9 is the Seahawks. They just beat the Falcons but failed to cover. Coming up next for them, they host the lowly Bucks. 8, Ravens. They just had their bye. And this upcoming week, they face the Patriots in what is, in my opinion, the biggest game of Lamar Jackson's career, even though he had a playoff game last year against the Chargers. But nothing's bigger than a chance to beat Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, and the New England Patriots. Whenever you play the Patriots, it's the biggest game of your life. If you're a young quarterback, in my mind, especially if you're a young quarterback on a team that's in contention, like Lamar Jackson. 7 is the Houston Texans. They are coming off the win over the Raiders. Next up for them is the London game against the Jaguars. 6 is the Rams. They're coming off their London win against the Bengals. They have a bye this week. 5 is the Vikings. They're coming off the Thursday night win against the Redskins. Looked a little flat, but they got the job done. Next up for them at Kansas City. Tough game for them, regardless of Mahomes or not. 4 is the Green Bay Packers. They're playing very well. Had the nice win at Kansas City in a game where the Chiefs kept that game competitive, but give the Packers credit for pulling that out. Next up for them at the Chargers. 3 is the Saints. They're playing very well. Drew Brees came back. They beat the Cardinals. Next up for them is a bye. Number 2 is the San Francisco 49ers. To me, if you're undefeated by week number 10, then you automatically deserve to be in the top 2, especially if there's 2 teams, which there are 2 undefeated teams. Their defense is the best in the NFC right now. Next up for them is at the Cardinals tomorrow night, so the nation could really see about this 49ers team, although we did see it with their ass-kicking of the Browns a few weeks ago. And number 1, the New England Patriots, until they lose, they're number 1. That's my rule. They have Tom Brady, they have Bill Belichick, the infrastructure. They're undefeated. They're number 1 until they lose. If they lose to the Ravens and if the 49ers lose to the Cardinals, then the power rankings are going to look very interesting. Maybe you'll see the New Orleans Saints at number 1 or the Green Bay Packers. So we'll see how this week plays out. And it's going to be very interesting. I really love this slate this week a lot. And I think there's a lot of potential this week as well. Next up, the college football bowl projections for week number 10. Actually, no, that was my bad. The power rankings for week 9 in the NFL. That I just did, not week 10. I meant to put week 9. So, oopsies. So, week 10 bowl projections for college football. I apologize there. I got my weeks mixed up in the 2 sports. So I had to make a lot of changes here because there's yet another upset in college football. So the playoff right now, Fiesta Bowl, I have number 2 Ohio State against number 3 Clemson. In the Peach Bowl, I have number 1 Alabama against number 4 LSU. Rest of the New Year's 6 bowls, the Cotton Bowl, I have Appalachian State and Baylor. Orange Bowl, I have Virginia and Notre Dame. Rose Bowl, Utah and Penn State. The Sugar Bowl, Georgia and Oklahoma. Other bowl games, Bahamas, I have FAU and Central Michigan. Frisco, Tulane and North Texas. New Mexico, Southern Miss and Air Force. Cure, Navy and Troy. Boca Raton, Temple and Ohio. Camellia, Toledo and Arkansas State. Vegas, Boise and Stanford. New Orleans, Marshall and Louisiana. Gasparilla, Cincinnati and La Tech. Hawaii, I have BYU and Wyoming. Independence, I have UAB and Duke. Quick Lane, Miami and Indiana. Military, UCF and NC State. Pinstripe Bowl, Louisville and Michigan State. Texas, I have Oklahoma State and Kentucky. Holiday, I have Wisconsin and Washington. That's a nice game. Cheez-It, Washington State and Iowa State. Camping World, Pitt and Kansas State. First Responder, Western Kentucky and TCU. Music City, Florida State and Buffalo. Redbox, I have Nebraska and Arizona State. Belk, I have Wake and Mississippi State. Sun, Virginia Tech, USC. Liberty, Memphis, and San Jose State. Yeah, I said it. I think this team gets to 6 and makes a surprise bowl appearance. I have one more surprise bowl team on this list. I don't know if I got to them yet. Oh, no, I didn't. You'll hear it in a second. Arizona, I have Hawaii and Georgia Southern. Alamo, Texas, and Oregon. Citrus, Minnesota, and Florida. Outback, Michigan, and Auburn. Birmingham, Nevada, and SMU. Gator, Iowa, and Texas A&M. Famous Idaho Potato, Miami of Ohio, and San Diego State. Armed Forces, Illinois, and Utah State. So, Illinois, a couple big upsets, and they're 2 wins away from a bowl. They have a down Northwestern team at the end of the year, and then Rutgers this week, so that should get them the 6th. Mobile, Alabama Bowl, Western Michigan, and Georgia State. All right. Best bet of the day brought to you by DraftKings. Interesting games to pick from on the slate this week. I'm going to put the Nats on there because it's Scherzer and they're a dog. We'll go to the NBA. We'll take the Sixers. We'll take Toronto. We will take Houston. We'll take the Jazz. And then we'll go to the NHL. And we will take the Blues. So that's 6 teams. $9.45 odds. Wagering $1 payout of $10.45. That's it for the podcast today. I'll be back tomorrow recapping the World Series game number 7 and who wins and whatnot, and do a postmortem on each team. NBA and NHL, Thursday Night Football, college football, and a lot more. Tonight I'm going to have Jeff Burns on the podcast to preview and predict Game 7 with him, talk about the Breeders' Cup, maybe even get into some football and basketball with him as well. Tomorrow, Russell Baxter to talk about the NFL at the halfway point of the season. I hope you guys have a great day, everybody.